Last month my life blew up when I wrapped my family's cruelty in glittering paper and handed it right back to them. I should have known the moment I saw the tinsel garland duct taped to the doormat that this year's Christmas was going to be just as ridiculous as the last 6. I stood on my sister's porch, fake smiling like I always did, balancing a pie in one hand and a sack of presents in the other. My girlfriend, Sophie, whispered, "Ready?" like we were walking into a war zone. I laughed, but only a little. Because it wasn't really a joke. Every year, without fail, my family picked me, Daniel, the serious one, the quiet achiever, the corporate buzzkill, as the holiday punching bag. It started small. A mug that said, "World's most boring guy." One year. Then it escalated: used deodorant, fake eviction notices, a dead goldfish in a bag labeled, "For when you finally get a pet." And always the roaring laughter afterward like they just pulled off comedy gold. No one else ever got gifts like that. My sisters got spa vouchers. My cousins got AirPods. I got a moldy sock once. Singular. Last year was the worst. They gave me a box wrapped in 10 layers of duct tape. Inside was a onesie that said, "Mommy's little disappointment." Everyone howled. Even Grandma. I laughed too. But it wasn't real. Sophie didn't laugh. That night in the car she said, "They don't joke with you, Daniel. They joke at you." This year, I made a choice. I wasn't going to snap. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to mirror. Not with rage, but with precision. I'd been keeping receipts, literally. Photos, notes, every humiliating gift since the tradition started. I tracked them all. I was going to wrap the truth and hand it back with a bow. So we walked into my sister's house like everything was normal. The fireplace was already roaring, the fake snow on the windows looked like it was applied by a drunk elf, and Mariah Carey was screaming from the Bluetooth speaker. My oldest sister gave me the usual fake hug. "You brought dessert? That's cute." Sophie squeezed my hand. We made small talk. I complimented the tree. I ignored the side comments. I handed out my usual thoughtful gifts: candles, books, stuff they'd mentioned in passing. No passive aggression. Just kindness. Let them wonder. And then, after dessert, I stood up, clinked my glass, and smiled. "I brought a few extra gifts this year," I said. "Just little things to honor the tradition." They grinned. They thought I was finally playing along. I handed the first box to my oldest sister. She opened it. Pulled out a mug. On it, a picture of the moldy sock from 2019, with the caption, "For the guy who doesn't know how to live a little." Her face froze. Another sister. Her mug showed the fake eviction notice. "Don't worry, humor is free." One by one, they opened the boxes. No shouting. No vengeance. Just quiet, glossy memories of their greatest hits. The room went still. And I stood there, smiling like I always had, but this time, they didn't know what the joke was anymore. No one moved at first. My cousin Melissa, who once got a monogrammed throw blanket from me and repaid it with a "Sarcasm, just one of my many talents" mug the following year, was the first to break. She let out a tiny, almost embarrassed laugh, the kind you make when you're not sure if something's hilarious or horrifying. It echoed in the silence like a squeaky shoe in a cathedral. My mom narrowed her eyes at the mug in her hand. It had a picture of me holding the dead goldfish in its bag. Yep, I'd snapped a selfie in the bathroom that day, trying to laugh it off, and underneath it read, "The gift that keeps on swimming. For 3 to 5 hours. She looked at me like I'd just insulted the Pope. My dad was already 2 glasses of red wine in, and doing the thing he always did when things got awkward, adjusting the thermostat. As if lowering it by 2 degrees would suck the tension out of the air. "Is this supposed to be funny?" my sister Tara finally asked, holding up her mug like it had just insulted her in Latin. "Just honoring tradition," I said with a smile so mild it could have been used in a baby food commercial. "You know, the whole laughing at Daniel thing." My youngest cousin, Max, who was 17 and perpetually pretending to hate everything, leaned forward and muttered, "Yo! This is kind of brilliant." Sophie stayed seated on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, sipping her tea like she was at the theater. She didn't say a word. Her eyes sparkled. "This feels petty," Mom added. "Unnecessary." I nodded thoughtfully. You're right. It is petty. Just like the box of expired sardines from Christmas 2020. I think it said something like 4 when you finally get a taste. Thoughtful, right? The room shifted again. People were glancing at each other. Some uncomfortable. Some amused. Some suddenly very interested in their wine glasses. You've clearly been keeping score, Tara snapped. Who does that? I do, apparently, I said. Because for 6 years, I kept getting treated like I was the family punching bag. And everyone just called it fun. So I thought I'd join in. You know. For the laughs. No one was laughing. It was like I'd turned on a light they didn't know they were standing under. Suddenly, their jokes weren't harmless anymore. They were history. Documented. Archived. Immortalized in mug form. My Aunt Dana looked down at her mug. Hers had a shot of me holding the t-shirt that said, "Virginity rocks, but you don't." And she actually winced. She didn't say a word. Just sipped her Prosecco and avoided eye contact. I leaned back in the chair. My job was done. I didn't need to scold, lecture, or explain. I'd given them all a souvenir from their own comedy special, starring yours truly. And the best part? They had no idea what to do next. And then, because every movie needs a twist, the person I expected to stay silent stood up. My dad. He walked over, slow and deliberate, holding his mug like it was radioactive. This was the man who once slipped a plastic spider into my birthday cake when I was 8 and told me it was character building. The man who, just last year, gave me a bumper sticker that said, "I break for lectures." He stood there, cleared his throat, and looked around the room like a high school principal addressing a very guilty student body. I think, he started, voice low, we may have taken things too far. It was like someone had dropped a fork in a cathedral. Everyone stared at him. Maybe the joke went on too long. He added, glancing down at the mug again. Maybe it wasn't really a joke anymore. You could hear a marshmallow drop. Mom blinked so fast I thought she was buffering. Tara looked like someone had just switched her shampoo with Nair. Even Aunt Dana stopped mid-sip and actually gasped. Wow! Sophie whispered next to me. Is this happening? I nodded slowly, not entirely sure myself. Dad turned to me. You never said anything. I did, I said quietly. Just never loud enough to be heard. More silence. And then Melissa, the cousin who once gave me a framed photo of myself asleep at Thanksgiving with the words, "Dead inside," scribbled in glitter glue, spoke up. Honestly, she said, I kinda thought you didn't care. You never really reacted. I did, I replied. You just laughed over it. No one argued. And then, the strangest thing happened. Max, the brooding teen, snorted and said, This is the first Christmas that doesn't suck. Ever. A ripple of uneasy laughter followed. Nervous, unsure, like people weren't sure if they were allowed to laugh anymore. Tara crossed her arms. So what now? Are we supposed to feel bad? I looked at her. Really looked. No. You're supposed to think. Maybe just consider what it's like to be the punchline for 6 years straight. To be the fun target. To smile through it because calling it out would have ruined everyone else's mood. That's all. No one had a rebuttal. Mom looked down at her scarf. Adjusted it. Said nothing. My cousin whispered something to her boyfriend. He nodded slowly, like this was all some new language he never heard spoken before. I didn't expect a movie moment. No mass apology. No slow clap. But I could feel it, a shift. Small but real. Like someone finally flipped the script and nobody had memorized their new lines. Dad gave me a nod. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't warm. But it was the closest thing to accountability I'd ever seen from him. And honestly, that was enough for now. After the mug reveal, nobody knew what to do with their hands, or their mouths. It was like I'd thrown a wrench into a machine that had been chugging along for years on autopilot, powered by sarcasm and spiked eggnog. People started cleaning up. Early. Like, way earlier than usual. Usually, we'd still be in the middle of our third round of desserts while watching bad Hallmark movies and pretending not to judge each other's weight gain. But this time? Plates were scraped, wine was gulped, jackets mysteriously appeared. It felt like the emotional fire alarm had been pulled and everyone was quietly evacuating the building. My mom started wiping down the already clean countertop with obsessive precision. That's her move. When things get uncomfortable, she makes granite shine like the gates of heaven. My dad retreated to his favorite chair and stared into his scotch like it might give him answers. My sister Tara scrolled her phone so hard I thought her thumb would start smoking. Sophie and I stood in the hallway, watching the disassembly of the annual facade. "I think you broke them," she whispered, clearly impressed. "I didn't break anything," I said, zipping up my coat. "I just held up a mirror." As we were about to leave, my youngest cousin, Ava, sweet, shy, quiet Ava, caught my elbow. I like the mugs," she said, eyes flicking nervously toward her parents. "It made me feel like I wasn't the only one." I blinked. "Only one what?" She shrugged. "That they picked on. They always joke about me not being fun enough or too sensitive. But I always knew it wasn't really a joke." I stared at her. That's when it clicked. This whole time, I thought I was the only one catching the stray bullets. Turns out I was just the most obvious target. There were others, quieter, younger, more afraid to speak. I just happened to be the first one who fired back with a smile. I hugged her. Just a quick, one-arm thing. "You're not alone," I said. "And you're not wrong for not laughing." She nodded, bit her lip, then darted off like she just robbed a bank. In the car, Sophie turned to me, eyes gleaming. "You feel it?" she asked. "What?" "That feeling you get when you stop asking people to see you, and finally just show them who you are." I looked out the window as we pulled away from my sister's house, its lights twinkling like nothing had happened. But something had. The gears had shifted. The spell had cracked. And for the first time in years, I wasn't driving home from Christmas feeling like a prop in someone else's comedy sketch. I was driving home as me. 2 days later, the group chat lit up. The family one. Festive Fam 2020. Which had never been renamed because my aunt once tried and accidentally deleted 3 people. At first, it was quiet. Just some lingering Merry Christmas texts, and someone asking for the cranberry sauce recipe. Then came the thunder. "Tara. So are we all just pretending this year didn't end with a PowerPoint on Daniel's trauma in mug form?" Cousin Josh. "I thought the mugs were genius. Better than the year Uncle Fred tried to rap." Melissa. "It wasn't trauma. It was a clapback. And honestly? Deserved." Then came the kicker. "Mom. I think Daniel owes the family an apology. His little stunt was cruel and unnecessary. Christmas is supposed to be about forgiveness, not humiliation." I stared at my phone, jaw tightening. Sophie read it over my shoulder and snorted. "Humiliation? You wrapped their own jokes and handed them back. That's not cruelty. That's receipts." For a second, I considered typing something. Then I didn't. Because no. I wasn't doing this dance. I wasn't about to debate the morality of gift wrapping memories just because they weren't fun anymore when the laughter got redirected. I put the phone down. By noon, my dad had texted me privately. "We need to talk." Classic dad move. 5 words, maximum emotional distance. I ignored it. Not to be petty, just because I didn't want to have another conversation where I was told I was too sensitive for the 74th time in my life. That afternoon, Sophie and I went for a walk. Crisp air. Coffee in hand. No phones. We talked about anything but family. Her job. Our plans. A dumb documentary about squirrels learning obstacle courses. We laughed. A real laugh. One that didn't come at anyone's expense. When we got back, I had another message. From Ava. It was just a photo. Her mug. Sitting on her desk. Next to her laptop. Beside it was a post-it that said, "You're not the problem." I sat down and stared at it for a long time. That tiny piece of paper held more healing than any apology I'd ever begged for. And then came the notification that made me pause. New group chat created. Moving forward, no drama this time. Everyone from the family was in it. Except me. I stared at the screen. Moving forward, no drama this time. No drama. Which apparently meant, no Daniel. Sophie looked over my shoulder. Wow. They didn't even try to be subtle. I didn't say anything. I just tapped the phone off and sat there, feeling that weird hybrid of insulted and relieved. Like when you find out you weren't invited to a terrible party you wouldn't have wanted to attend, but still feel the sting of not being asked. They made a whole new chat? I said finally. Of course they did, Sophie replied. They're not moving forward. They're just moving away from being held accountable. I laughed. You sound like my therapist. That's because your therapist is right. A few hours later, I got a message from my youngest sister, Anna. Did you see the new chat? I wrote back. Yup. She replied. I didn't ask to be in it. Just FYI. Then another text. I told Mom that cutting you out doesn't count as conflict resolution. I stared at that one for a while. Anna was never the rebel. She was the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over arguments with careful timing and tea refills. For her to challenge Mom? That was basically an act of war. I typed. Thanks. You didn't have to. She answered. I kinda did. You lit the match. I'm just making sure it stays lit long enough to mean something. That night, Sophie and I curled up on the couch, no music, no chatter. Just warm socks, a blanket, and the soft hum of a quiet home. No gifts. No group photos. No backhanded comments wrapped in glitter bows. And I didn't miss any of it. Well, except Grandma. I missed her coffee cake. That woman made cinnamon taste like an emotion. The next morning, another text came in. This time from my cousin Josh. Hey, just want you to know, I never realized how mean it got. I laughed along, but I shouldn't have. The mugs made it impossible to keep pretending it was harmless. Then, you gave a lot of people permission to look at things differently. Thanks for that. I didn't know what to say to that. Not out of bitterness. Out of relief. Because slowly, people were starting to get it. Not everyone, not instantly. But enough. And that? That was more satisfying than any apology that would have been forced out of guilt or family pressure. Some people heal quietly. Some people process in private. And some people, apparently, start new group chats to avoid doing either. A week into January, the silence from my parents was still going strong. No calls, no texts, not even a forwarded chain email from my mom about angel blessings or discounted casserole dishes. That might sound like peace, but coming from my family, it was practically a cold war. Then, just as Sophie and I were finishing up a Sunday grocery run, my phone rang. Dad. I stared at the screen like it was a live snake. Answer it, Sophie said. You don't have to do anything except listen. I picked up. Hey. Daniel. His voice was clipped, the way it always got when he was reading from a mental script. Are you planning on holding a grudge forever? No warm-up. No how's work. Just a verbal elbow to the ribs. I sighed. I'm not holding anything, Dad. I just responded once after being the family's favorite piñata for 6 years. Family's tease? He said like it was gospel. It's tradition. Really? I asked. Then how come it was always me? Why didn't the jokes ever rotate? Why didn't Tara ever get a glitter bomb or a disappointment of the year mug? Silence. He wasn't used to being asked real questions. Our family specialized in side-eye and avoidance. Finally, he muttered, Maybe you just took things more personally than others. And there it was. The old fallback. If you react, you're the problem. I didn't yell. Didn't argue. I just said, if I was so overly sensitive, how come the moment I gave the exact same energy back, nobody laughed? Another pause. Then, well, I guess it's just a difference in sense of humor. Sure, Dad. And the Titanic just had a difference in swimming technique. I ended the call politely but firmly. No drama. Just boundaries. The new me didn't need to win the argument. I'd already won my piece. Later that week, Anna came over to our apartment. She brought brownies, her laptop, and a bottle of wine. We didn't talk about the group chat. We just watched bad reality TV and laughed at stuff that didn't require anyone's feelings to be sacrificed. When she got up to leave, she said, You know you shook them, right? It's not just about the mugs. You made them uncomfortable. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I told her. I just didn't want to keep shrinking every Christmas so other people could have fun. Anna nodded. You didn't shrink. You expanded. And it made them realize how small they'd gotten. She gave me a quick hug and left. That night, as Sophie and I cleaned up, she looked at me and said, You're not waiting for an apology anymore, are you? I shook my head. Nope. I'm not waiting for anything. And I meant it. 2 months later, I got an invitation in the mail, actual paper, thick cardstock, gold trimmed, like it was trying to apologize for something without actually saying sorry. It was for my cousin Emma's 10-year wedding anniversary. A big formal dinner. Everyone invited. Including me. Sophie saw the envelope on the counter and raised an eyebrow. You going? I shrugged. I think I will. She blinked. You sure? I'm not going for them, I said. I'm going for me. We agreed, dinner only. No pre-event mingling, no post-toast dancing. In and out. No dramatics. Sophie picked out a navy dress that made her look like royalty. I threw on a clean suit, ran a comb through my hair, and practiced my polite smile in the mirror. Not fake. Just distant. The banquet hall was exactly what I expected. White roses, champagne flutes, a string quartet by the door. Tables assigned by family unit. Sophie and I were tucked away at the back by the emergency exit. I considered it a bonus. If anything exploded, we could flee like spies in the night. My parents were near the front, of course. Mom had her pearls on. Dad was talking to someone but looking around like he was more interested in exits than conversation. Neither of them looked back at me. Tara passed us once on her way to the buffet, eyes scanning the crowd like she was searching for someone more important. Her husband followed her, avoiding my gaze like it might set off a tripwire. The air was thick. Not tense, just heavy, like everyone had rehearsed what not to say. Only Anna came over. She gave Sophie a warm hello, made a joke about the DJ being allergic to good music, and asked if I'd tried the meatballs. She didn't mention the mugs. Didn't bring up the group chat. She knew better. That's why she was the only one I still invited to my life. We sat through dinner. Chicken that tasted like formality. Speeches full of vague wisdom and jokes that never quite landed. My dad gave a toast about resilience in families and getting through conflict with grace. No names mentioned, but his eyes skipped over our table like we were a typo. Then my mom stood up and talked about forgiveness and rising above division, her voice smooth as silk, her eyes floating over the room like a drone on autopilot. She didn't look at me once. No one clapped too hard. Everyone just wanted to get to dessert. And me? I didn't feel angry. I felt done. We left after the first song. No goodbyes. No drama. No silent pleas for recognition. Just coats, thank yous to the waitstaff, and a quiet walk to the car. On the drive home, Sophie reached over and squeezed my hand. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. It's weird, but yeah. Because here's the thing no one tells you, closure isn't always loud. Sometimes it doesn't come with apologies or declarations or teary reunions. Sometimes closure is a table at the back of the room and realizing you're not angry to be seated there anymore. You're just relieved to not be fighting for a seat at a table where the jokes were always at your expense. The next morning, my inbox had 2 unread messages. One from a cousin who'd been silent since Christmas. She said she hadn't known what to say back then, but she remembered a birthday years ago when the family mocked her weight in a group card. Everyone laughed. She pretended to. But she'd never forgotten. She said the mugs made her feel seen, even if they weren't about her. The other message was from my uncle, my mom's brother, usually Switzerland in family drama. He wrote, Heard about the mugs? Wish I'd thought of it. Still chuckling. You didn't ruin anything. You just gave them what they gave you. And they finally realized how bitter it tasted. Good on you. No long paragraphs. No hashtags. Just truth. And over the next few weeks, little things kept happening. Max, the teen who hated everything, sent me a photo of his mug on his desk, next to a stack of textbooks. Caption: Best gift I've ever gotten. Not kidding. Melissa sent a DM that just said, I deserved mine. I get it now. Even Ava, the youngest, the quietest, posted a story on her private Instagram showing her mug with a caption. Sometimes you have to rewrap the joke and send it back. It wasn't a revolution. It wasn't everyone. But it was enough. And the rest? They faded out? Not with a bang. Just absence. No more invitations. No holiday emails. No forced catch-ups. For once, silence didn't feel like exile, it felt like space. Like I finally had room to decide what kind of family I wanted to build around me. Because here's what I've learned: being the good sport isn't noble if it comes at the cost of your dignity. Humor isn't kindness when it punches down. And traditions aren't sacred if they only survive through someone else's silence. This year, I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I didn't throw a tantrum in the middle of Christmas brunch. I just made the joke swing both ways. And now, for the first time in my adult life, I have a holiday season that doesn't make me brace for impact. Sophie and I booked a cabin for next Christmas. Just us. No tree. No matching sweaters. No emotional landmines hidden in gift wrap. Maybe some snow. Maybe a fire. Definitely peace. And mugs. Lots of mugs. But only the kind that make us laugh, for real.